Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to our ranking members as well for holding this hearing, and thanks to our witnesses. I just have a couple of questions I want to try to get to, but I want to point out that contrary to some suggestions that have been made here today, the President's energy strategy, in fact, has embraced the all of the above approach. He said that on many occasions, even when some of us didn't want him to say all of above. Indeed, the rulemaking envisions, I think, a 21st century approach to fossil fuel powered plants with the goal of reducing CO2 emissions in new power plants. And I think it's important to point out the word new. In the Recovery Act, the President committed $1.4 billion to this technology, even in the face of some of us who question, frankly, the technology. But that being as it might, the EPA has come up with a rule. It has a specific responsibility, a particular responsibility to protect our health and environment. And while industry considerations are interesting, that is not the principal responsibility of the EPA. But I think that I happen to think that we can do both. That we can both protect the environment and we can grow jobs and we can grow an energy strategy that really embraces all of those responsibilities. My first question goes to Mr. McConnell. Something you said kind of caught my attention about the jobs questions. Were you referring to a specific empirical study, university study, industry study that points to the number of jobs that would be lost by applying standards to new powered plants versus old?
I can't quote any specific study here, only that I've been exposed to a number of studies from several different sources. If you could
get back to us on that and give us the particular studies, because I'm a data person and I'd like to see the data that backs up your conclusions that jobs would be lost by applying a rule to new power plants versus old ones. And I'd like to see those numbers. And then my next question goes to Mr. Waltzer. I noticed that you know, in the industry, the oil and gas industry receives subsidies to the tune of about $7.5 billion a year. ExxonMobil made $7.5 billion in profits in 2012. Occidental, $7.1 billion. The numbers are really huge. It seems to me that if we have an interest in doing with what Mr. McConnell points out in his testimony is the need to add $100 million a year into demonstrating these projects in research and development, that you know, $100 million could come out of that $7.5 billion in subsidies that the industry receives. And so I wonder, Mr. Waltzer, if you could tell us what the additional needs you see in terms of investment in R&D and whether we've made the kind of investments we need to go to this, to go into the commercial side with these coal plants and the new regulations. Because if, for example, we needed to find more money, perhaps my colleagues on the other side in this very constrained environment would be willing to remove those oil and gas subsidies so that we could put the money into demonstrating new technologies.
Thank you. Let me first go back to what we think is the most important objective. We think that CCS needs to be deployed globally and it needs to be affordable. So we need to move the technology forward as quickly as possible. So that brings us back to, with respect to the oil industry, enhanced oil recovery is an opportunity in the U.S. We could potentially have 100 gigawatts of coal plants, about a third of our coal plants, supplying CO2 for EOR that would produce domestically produced oil if we met the technical potential for EOR in this country. We believe that a self-financing tax incentive is a very smart and effective way to move that technology forward. What's interesting about that number, 100 gigawatts, is if you look with the history of scrubbers and other technologies, that you can significantly push the cost down the cost curve at that scale. It's also going to bring new technologies into the market, so in terms of research and development. Two interesting technologies, just some examples. One is called chemical looping, which would dramatically increase the efficiency in coal plants and dramatically reduce the cost of CCS. Another would be advanced natural gas turbines. There's at least one company that has a design that would significantly drop the cost of CCS to the point they think they can compete in the market today. So it's that sort of mix of performance standards and incentives that could pull those new technologies into the market while getting the learning curve moving forward. And that's our vision for how we think we move this technology in the U.S. and how we think and the value that that's going to have globally.
Thank you. And my time has expired, and so I would really love to see us move to a point where we're making investments through our tax code that are about new technologies and not just supporting an old industry that's making record profits. Thank you.
Okay,